Bling, bling, movers and shakers there for the East-West Shrine Bowl. And yes, Shedeur Sanders is there, one of the top prospects when it comes to this year's draft. But QB1 is not throwing, just there to see some of those teams holding the top 3 picks, and the Titans, the Browns, and Giants. And, of course, yes, he's meeting with all 3 because he can go maybe not top 3, not 2, but maybe number 1. For more on this, our Mike Renner, when you talk about movers and shakers, now in Mobile, was there to see Shador. But I'm curious, Mike, there's been a lot of conversation around him. It's not unusual for a quarterback not to throw when you're expected to go that high. But what have you heard about Shador in his camp this week?
Yeah, he's not the only one not throwing. Cam Ward, the other guy rumored to be in that top 5 mix, he's not throwing. He didn't even go to any of these spots. So it's not unusual. With Shedeur, though, I think it was a shrewd move by him to go to the Shrine Bowl because he got a whole weekend where it was all him. You know, that's all anyone wanted to talk about, and that's all the NFL personnel that's drafting at the top wanted to meet with. So he got extended meetings with all of these teams over an hour, whereas if he was at the Senior Bowl, he would not have gotten that sort of attention from these franchises. So whether it was the Giants, whether it was the Raiders, they were hawking this guy, watching his every move. And so I think he really got to give them a real feel for who he is and not just this media persona that he's kind of created here in the Sanders brand.
Yeah, like you mentioned there, along with him and Cam Ward, those are the 2 top quarterbacks a lot of people have their eyes on. But, of course, take a look at their odds to be number 1. Cam, the favorite. Then you have Travis, the 2-way star. Then we find Shedeur Sanders at plus 450 when it comes to those game changers. But I'm curious there, Mike. You were there. You won't be able, a lot of teams won't be able to have a chance to get a chance or their hands on any of those 3 there. Give me some of those names that may be flying under the radar but making a name for themselves come draft day.
Yeah, on the Shrine Bowl, Kyle McCord from Syracuse was easily the best performer there. I mean, he had a monster season at Syracuse, a big bounce-back year for him because after his last year at Ohio State, people weren't even talking about this guy's draftable prospect, but you saw the talent there on tape this past fall, and it carried over in the Shrine Bowl. The guys at the Senior Bowl, though, are probably going to be that second wave of quarterback. So I don't expect anyone else besides the 2 we've mentioned already to be first-rounders, but I think Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, Jalen Milroe from Alabama, and Will Howard from Ohio State, in some order, will be your next 3 quarterbacks off the board. And in this class specifically, because there's going to be a lot of teams that still need quarterbacks, but maybe aren't thinking I want them in, the top 10. Day 2 might actually be fruitful. You might actually see some second and third rounders where it's kind of been a dead zone for the quarterback position in recent years. I think we might actually see those 3 names all come off the board somewhere on day 2.
I want you to take me back through that list. I'm just curious, in your perspective, any possible hidden gems that we might see. I mean, Brock Purdy, that was one we didn't expect. And guys like that, Mac Brosmer there from Minnesota. I'm curious, anybody else that sticks out outside of McCord for you?
Brady Cook's the one that's interesting to me because this past year at Missouri apparently played through injury all season long. His season prior to that was much, much better. You had a lot of guys talking about him as possibly one of this breakout candidates at the quarterback position. Now, like Brock Purdy, he's not a toolsy guy. Purdy didn't get drafted until the 7th round because he didn't have a strong arm, right? Because he was short. Cook kind of fits that mold, but I do think he's a guy that when you saw him interact with other players there on the football field, everyone knew his name. Everyone came and dapped him up. He was the guy that gets, that leadership role comes very naturally to him. So if you're looking for traits that you want in a quarterback, those are all things I would want if I'm drafting a guy 6th, 7th round, hoping he develops into something.
Speaking of traits and showing up there, some Notre Dame players showing up just right off the natty as if you don't have enough tape already for teams if you're trying to impress someone. But from your perspective, is this an advantage or disadvantage for guys that, they didn't have time to go train for a bowl game or prep for the draft? Is this a disadvantage or advantage in your eyes?
100% a disadvantage, unfortunately for them. I mean, now, getting to play those games at the end of the season, getting to put more tape out there against really good competition, always an advantage. But I do think in some ways for guys who are maybe tweeners or guys who are switching positions, there's a lot of things that you can do in a controlled setting like the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl that can boost your stock, that can be better for your evaluation. So I do think, and I saw the Senior Bowl director, Jim Nagy, tweeting about it earlier yesterday, saying that the college football has to figure this out because these guys have a lot riding on this, and it's unfair to them that they get put at this disadvantage because you saw a lot of Ohio State guys are opting out of the Senior Bowl. A lot of Notre Dame guys, some did come to the Shrine Bowl, but some are still opting out where they could use this setting to interact with coaches, GMs, that sort of thing, and get to put their best foot forward. So I do think we'll have to come to a resolution on this sort of extended college football schedule in the coming years.
Mike, I'm curious, one quick one for you. When you think about it here, you have pro days for guys, and now you have the Shrine Bowl games as well. Do teams value the bowl games more, or is it more towards a pro day when it comes to guys that are trying to trend upwards in your eyes?
It's 100% these bowl games, because it's one of the only times where you get a controlled setting of guys playing against other guys who will be in the NFL. And so if you look good in those, and it's kind of like you're thrown into an unfamiliar situation, it's like you're going to do in the NFL. You know, day one of training camp is you're not going to know any of those guys that are on the football field with you. Well, how do you interact with them? How do you perform in that setting, and how do you rise to the occasion? I think a lot of people put a lot of stock in these weeks because of it, because more often than not, the cream that rises to the top in these situations, they end up being pretty darn good NFL players.
We will see. Mike Renner, you stay warm and toasty up there in Mobile, and we'll be waiting for you back here in Florida, my guy. Hey, don't forget, with the first pick or the pushing the pile, you can see that there with Mike Renner and Kyle Long. All you got to do is tap in. As always, they're giving you the skitty everything they got the closer we get to that draft.